What made the popular guy or girl lose their popularity? Story 1. She wasn't very nice. Pretty as a picture, but dim as a dark room. Once people saw how she really was as a person, i.e., using her looks to get what she wanted, and throwing a hissy fit once she didn't get it, caused people to lose interest really quickly. I actually met her about a decade after we graduated, and she was a completely different person. Really humble and gentle. Actually, a lot more clever than she appeared. No idea what she's doing now. Story 2. Tall, good-looking foreign exchange student showed up one year with a cute smile and some impressive soccer skills. Never thought I'd see schoolgirls giggle and follow around boys in a crowd as they do in TV shows. But this guy made it happen. He abruptly stopped showing up one day after a few months. Don't know 100% what happened, but the rumor was that he got sent back for putting some pretty serious hate symbols in a poetry project, thinking it would be a funny joke. Story 3. He was a new kid, but due to his looks, his parents' wealth, and sports aptitude, he quickly became popular. Then he made the mistake of bullying a harmless kid who was on the spectrum and was basically the football team's lucky charm. They did not take kindly to that, and he went from being the next big thing to being that kid no one wanted to talk to, and he had to basically bribe people to keep them around. Story 4. They lost their place to a kind and warm-hearted sweet girl with a very sunny and positive vibe. Suddenly, everyone was around her, and not around the popular kid anymore. Basically, the students finally saw what they really needed. Story 5. Freshman year of high school, a very popular guy who was the it kid, freshman phenomenal world record on a nationally ranked team. We were all leaving class one day. He randomly decided it was a good idea to make fun of a very well-loved handicapped guy who wouldn't last much due to his condition. Some advanced form of water in the brain, if I remember correctly, and even decided to punch him. This knocked the poor kid to the ground. About 10 guys immediately jumped him. A shop teacher saw it happen and let it continue for a minute before stopping things. Mr. Popular got quite messed up in that short window, kicked off the team, expelled, moved schools in a move that I'm guessing was a way to start over at a new school, never heard from him again. Went from pep rally king to degenerate outcast in 5 minutes. I had a front row seat and was one of 50 plus people who testified to the school administrators. The victim passed away later that school year from his condition. You almost never heard him speak, but when he did, he was always kind and thoughtful. Story 6. Becoming the small fish at university. Story 7. He was popular for doing pranks. He had a devil-may-care attitude to everything and was really attractive. That wasn't the reason he was popular, but it helped. Then he sprayed his displeasure over his recent breakup with his well-liked girlfriend, who was a kind soul, on her car with spray paint. Suddenly he lost his crew because they felt it was too far. He also rendered himself undateable because he had proved he was unstable and jealous. He literally went from a god to that creep. Story 8. Making fun of someone's dad when they were diagnosed with cancer. That's going to drop your approval rating somewhat. Story 9. Here's my story. In 5th grade, we moved and I changed schools. I went from a school in the city where everyone got along and was friends to a school in the suburbs where I was introduced to popular and unpopular for the first time. As a quiet kid, I was quickly deemed unpopular and took my fair share of suffering. Around March or April, my teacher moved our desks around and set up islands of 4 to 5 desks around the room. except for two, the most popular boy in school who was a troublemaker in class, and I moved our desks right up next to the side of hers. I later found out she did this for two reasons. One, to keep an eye on him, and two, she felt I would be a good influence on him. A funny thing happened. Between then and the end of the school, we became best friends, and I became the second most popular kid in school. I started getting invited to birthday parties, kids stopped being mean to me, I got invited to play football at lunch, and girls liked me. It was amazing. Then summer happened, and we were in different classes the next year. He forgot about me, then he moved. And everyone went back to treating me badly again. That's my little story about losing popularity. Story 10. She got pregnant and had to quit cheerleading. The football players didn't want her anymore, and her popularity took a hit. Plus, the other girls were very judgmental. Story 11. I went to the same school as the kids of the Prime Minister of my country at the time. I didn't know the daughter too well, but apparently, she went from being popular to being forced out of the school by the other students when her dad lost the election. It was pretty sad that people started hating on her for something she had no control over. Story 12. A girl in my hometown was always picking on this guy in her class, making fun of his last name, picking on his mom and his little brother. Nothing physical. I think people just thought it was a bit of ribbing. Nothing so bad anyone felt the need to intervene. Then one day, his family was in a car accident, and he was the only one to survive. When he came back to school, she said something like, "Couldn't even get that right." It was so bad after that she switched schools, but her reputation followed her. She tried running a sorority in college, but wouldn't you know, the story followed her there too. Story 13. They were brother and sister. Let's call them Eric and Megan. Eric was in his senior year and a couple of months from graduating. He was a jock and an absolute tool. Megan was a sophomore. She was actually nice. They were both very popular and reasonably attractive. Their friends would make comments about how hot their sibling was, etc. The two of them, for some messed up reason, decided to make an adult video together and showed it to their friends. Somehow they were surprised when this led to being socially exiled. Megan ended up being sent to live with her grandparents about 1,000 miles away. This kind of stuff was not uncommon in the area I grew up in. Illicit substances and things like the one that happened to the siblings are quite common in rural Vermont, but no one wants to acknowledge that. Also, this was only a few years ago. Story 14. The student president called our residential nice girl a bitch. You know the sweetheart who is kind to everyone? The girl that every guy has a crush on? It was a small school, so gossip ran through the halls like nothing else. But I've never seen the tables turn so viciously and decidedly. Story 15. Way back when I was in school, a girl who was quite popular decided she could make fun of another kid's Down syndrome sibling in front of her friends. Well, the popular kids in my school weren't bad people, so they didn't laugh and literally turned their backs on her. She was a loner for the rest of the year and went goth the next, then moved. It wasn't funny at the time, nor is it funny now. Edit. Just for clarification purposes, this was not on the school grounds. We were at a park one night with a lot of kids hanging out when she did it. She tried to apologize to her friends for some reason, not to the kid or his brother. That's when the other kids got in a car and left her alone, standing there after telling her it wasn't funny and she should apologize to the kid and his brother. Not them. I think this was just one thing in a long line of problems they had with her, and this just was the final one, so the school had no say in it. But yes, If it happened in school, she would have gotten in trouble for saying it. She also did very rude hand gestures. Also, side note, when I say no one laughed, I mean no one. It was more like you could hear crickets and the girl laughing until she realized it was only her. Story 16. He was popular among the group of people he was associated with. I don't think he was super popular or anything. Punk kid. All his popularity went out the window when he went out the window of his car after he crashed it into a building because he was huffing paint and speeding down the road with one of the group's popular girls. Thankfully, she survived, but from what I recall, he wasn't remembered so fondly after that. Story 17. The kid made a video for a school project, which he played in front of the class. The project video ended and cut to him playing with himself. He was a freshman. He spent the remainder of high school known only as the cameraman. From his reaction, I'm guessing it was purely accidental. The consensus was that he used an old tape and didn't check what was on it. This was early 90s. Story 18. A popular girl was driving drunk on the way to school and caused a pretty bad accident involving 3 other cars. She spilled liquor on herself and slammed on her brakes in a line of cars. Her car managed not to have a scratch. She swapped seats with her passenger in front of everyone before the cops arrived. A few minutes later, we realized she has disappeared. She had slipped into another car that had stopped to see if everyone was okay. Several people ended up getting tickets and her passenger ended up getting a DUI. She was unpopular until graduation. Story 19. A popular boy cried in class during a discussion about a recent tragedy because someone that was close to him passed away in the same tragedy. He got relentlessly bullied for the short time afterward that he was at that school. He was a good kid that didn't deserve any of that. I really hate middle school kids sometimes. Story 20. He and another kid from our school got busted for picking up 2 middle school girls from the local mall and taking them to a motel. He used to be the class clown and on the announcements and everything, but the dude was an untouchable from them on. I don't even remember if he graduated or not. Story 21. She started a fight with another popular girl over something petty. The other popular girl, unbeknownst to us all, practiced martial art and delivered with one hand the most beautiful, graceful punch that I have ever had the pleasure of seeing, whilst pulling out a chunk of hair with the other. The other girl was suspended and skyrocketed higher than ever, while the popular girl who started the fight became little more than a laughingstock with a temporary bald spot. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the bell button to receive notifications to my latest videos.